Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Bleav in Bengal podcast right here on Bally Sports Ohio. The Cincinnati Bengals get their first win of the season by taking down the Carolina Panthers, and Andy Dalton with them. The Bengals, of course, emerged 34-24 down on the road against the Carolina Panthers team that had a lot of fight. But first, let me tell you about Bet Online. It is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for everything football. BetOnline has all the stats, all the matchups, and all the live odds and spreads across every single game and every single sport. You can get in on the $200,000 mega contest and pick 5 games against the spread every single week. All you got to do is go to BetOnline. Of course, the game starts here. Getting back to the Cincinnati Bengals. Listen, we went down to Carolina with the thought that we could end up starting the season 0-4. No one had the Cincinnati Bengals starting the season 0-4. So it's a good thing that we were able to come away with a 10-point win, a team that really tested us. Remember, Cincinnati Bengals defense is banged up front on the defensive line, playing without their 2 starting interior defensive linemen, Sheldon Rankins, B.J. Hill, who are out. Hopefully both of those guys will be back week 5 when we take on the Baltimore Ravens, because, boy, we are going to need them. Cincinnati Bengals have allowed 100 yards rushing in all 4 games this season. We've got to do better. We got to do better on the back end in the secondary. Can't let them throw the ball over our heads. However, the Cincinnati Bengals offense, led by our quarterback, Joe Burrow, did you know they're one of the hottest offenses in the National Football League? So this thing called scoring drive percentage is one of the new metrics that we use to measure how efficient and how effective offenses are. So typically a team might get 10 drives a game, 10 offensive possessions of game. If you can score on 50% of your offensive possessions, you're one of the best offenses in the National Football League. Well, the Cincinnati Bengals rank 3rd in scoring drive percentage, scoring on 50% of their offensive drives through the first 4 games of the season. The only teams that are better are the Washington Commanders at about 64%. And then the New Orleans Saints, who are just a little bit ahead of the Bengals at 57.5%. That's their scoring drive percentage. That means just a little bit more than half of the 10 drives per game, the Bengals are scoring on more than half of those. Remember, they scored on 85% of their drives in the Monday night game against the Washington Commanders. That is about the play of our quarterback, Joe Burrow, who's only thrown 1 interception in 4 games so far this season. And you know what? He didn't blame it on Jamar Chase, even though, Jamar, you left your boy hanging a little bit, because Joe was scrambling. He saw Jamar coming across the field, and he led him across the field. And then Jamar redirected his route, and that allowed the ball to get intercepted by the Carolina Panthers safety. And, Joe Burrow does not like throwing interceptions. In fact, that's what I love about him the most. When you have a quarterback who does not turn the ball over, that quarterback gives you the chance to win every single game. It's about not giving the ball to the other team. And he is one of the best quarterbacks in our league at understanding that's how you win games. You manage each and every drive to get points out of it, whether it's a field goal or a touchdown, and you don't turn the ball over to the other team. So Cincinnati Bengals are rolling on offense. Our run game, we're getting some balance. We're using our quarterback, Joe Burrow, under center more, and we're running the ball more. 31 rushing attempts against the Carolina Panthers versus 35 pass attempts for Joe Burrow. That's excellent balance in the running game, 144 yards rushing, and Chase Brown, 2 rushing touchdowns, another rushing touchdown for Zack Moss, 3 in the entire game. That is when your running game goes a long way into helping with play action passes and helping Joe Burrow to get the ball down the field. And of course, we're going to talk a little bit later about some of the young players who are starting to emerge on offense in the Cincinnati Bengals offense around Joe Burrow, because we're going to take a break. And when we do come back, we're going to be joined by Cincinnati Bengals beat writer for the Cincinnati Enquirer, Charlie Goldsmith. He's going to stop by to join us right here on the Bleav in Bengal podcast on Bally Sports Ohio. We'll be back right after this. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Bleav in Bengal podcast with Solomon Wilcots. And right now we're joined by Cincinnati Bengals beat writer for the Cincinnati Enquirer, Charlie Goldsmith, joining us on the show. Charlie, how you doing today?
How you doing, Solomon?
Hey, look, I'm doing great. First, I got to tell people about Cherubundi. This is this great drink, Charlie. It has natural melatonins, no sugar added, by the way, and it's used by some 500 professional teams as well as collegiate teams. It's even used in Europe in sports teams down in Brazil. It's one of the best sports drinks on the market. It's not necessarily an energy drink as much as it is a wellness drink. So don't forget that you could go to Amazon or cherubundi.com to find out more. Hey, look, Charlie, the Cincinnati Bengals get their first win of the season. They beat the Carolina Panthers. That turned out to be a formidable opponent with Andy Dalton leading the charge. How important was it for the Bengals to not only play well, but to win this game? I cannot live in a world where we go down and lose to the Carolina Panthers with Andy Dalton as their starting quarterback.
It kind of set the tone for the rest of the season, too, because this is what it's going to have to look like. I'm even more concerned about the Bengals defense than I was after Monday Night Football, even though Dalton's stats weren't quite as good as Jaden Daniels. The fact that, the defense just might not get better. But the offense, I really can't think of what a weakness of that unit is. This genuinely feels like a unit that can put up 30 points per game on any given night, that can kind of try to beat you in any different way. Burrow looks as close to his best ball as he's been since the injury. Chase, 63-yard touchdown like we've never seen before. The Panthers are still trying to figure out how to match up with Higgins, the run game, the tight ends. This offense is exactly what the coaching staff promised.
Yeah, look, Cincinnati Bengals ranked third across all of the National Football League in scoring drive percentage at around 57%. Only two teams scoring at a higher rate in terms of each and every possession, and that is the Washington Commanders and the New Orleans Saints. Kind of talk to me about the fact that we had greater balance, right, between the run and pass. This is as well as we've run the football in a long time. 31 run plays. I think 35 pass plays. Zack Moss is almost perfect for this offense, and now they're starting to get some juice in the running game from Chase Brown.
This is kind of exactly what the Bengals' offseason priority was from a scheme standpoint. What the coaching staff is, they use the words multiple, versatile, different ways to beat you, as opposed to just hoping that or expecting that Boyd, Higgins, and Chase will get open. That works 75, 80% of the time, but for the 20% of the times it doesn't work, you need that balanced run game. Zack Moss, you should see him picking up some of these defensive tackles and pass protection, but also as a runner, he is gritty, he is crafty, he can get that extra hidden yard like he did at the goal line for that huge touchdown before the half. Chase Brown, literally one of the fastest ball carriers in the NFL. And then you got to give credit to the tight ends too. Eric All, whose role continues to grow and grow. He is making some dynamic blocks, and dynamic blocks isn't really a word I'd been using with the Bengals over the previous seasons, looking at kind of their supplementary role players. Add in Drew Sample, a good blocker. Gesicki's been better than expected. Chase had a huge block in the run game in this game. This is the best the run game has looked with Zac Taylor.
What concerns you the most? Our secondary, who are letting teams throw the ball over our head, our run defense that ranks 25th in the National Football League in terms of rush yards allowed per game. They rank 28th in terms of rush yards allowed after contact, which means we're missing a lot of tackles, Charlie.
Yeah, this isn't a good tackling team. This isn't a good run defense. I'm concerned about all of it. What's most concerning to me, though, is my expectation was that the Bengals would have just enough or more than enough playmaking to overcome it. Specifically, Cam Taylor-Britt, I thought, had the potential to be the best playmaker on the team, on the defense, aside from Trey Hendrickson. And the fact that Cam's getting benched, heck, you really boil down what were the big plays in that game. Well, it was Cam Taylor-Britt getting beat down the sideline. It was a double move for a touchdown. It was another play near the red zone where Cam Taylor-Britt just got lost. You look at all of the deep receptions Dalton completed, they all were against Cam. And that's what gets you benched. And for a guy who in a lot of ways represents the upside of the defense, when he's costing you on the downside in that way and can't make up for it, a splash plays leads to one of your best players getting benched. The Bengals need the cornerback group to, again, be kind of the spice that brings the defense to life, and they're not there right now.
Look, we're not getting pressures either. 28th in total pressures by our defense. a total of 53 in the first 4 games. Give you an idea of the best teams at generating pressure, getting after the quarterback is the Minnesota Vikings. They have 100 pressures through the first 4 games. That shows you how far off the mark. And now we are dealing with an injury with Trey Hendrickson, the only consistent pass rusher up front. Yeah. What does that bode for the Bengals as we move forward on our defense?
It's really interesting that you bring up the Vikings too, because, the Vikings have some nice edge rushers, but the Vikings, they cause so many headaches that they will cause you to implode like a robot. They'll force you to self-combust. That's what they do with these games and these blitzes and these disguises. And I asked Lou yesterday, how come you're not creating those types of headaches for teams? Because the Bengals, aside from Trey, just flat out aren't having guys win one-on-one. They probably won't have more of that until Sheldon Rankins returns. They've got to force more headaches and force more, implosions. And Lou said that takes chemistry. That's typically something that Hubbard and B.J. Hill are elite at, working together. Turn on the Seahawks film from last year, and you'll see several examples of that when the Bengals played them. Well, with Hill out, Hubbard doesn't have that chemistry with the new defensive tackles the Bengals are rotating in. None of them really have that chemistry or the timing or the feel to kind of create those self-inflicted mistakes on other teams. And as a result, when you combine that with the fact that no one's winning one-on-one, literally like no one outside of Trey Hendrickson.
That's right.
Like Logan Wilson, I believe, was second on the team in pressures on Sunday. So that's just the state where the defense is at.
Yeah. Got to be concerned as Cincinnati Bengals get ready to play host to the Baltimore Ravens, who are coming off back-to-back games with over 250 yards rushing. They're putting Lamar Jackson under center and putting Derrick Henry behind him, and he is like a freight train coming downhill. This offense has taken flight over the last couple of weeks with a great pairing of Derrick Henry, Lamar Jackson in that same backfield. And when you're averaging 225 rush yards per game and you're getting ready to take on our defense that hasn't played well against the run, what comes to mind as we enter week 5 getting ready to play host to the Baltimore Ravens?
Well, so start with the fact that the Bengals have a very limited pass rush. Yes. So the Bengals, to win on third downs, they've got to be able to blitz you, which means that it's going to have to be like 3rd and 5 to 3rd and 10, which means that you just literally can't, if you want to stand a chance on third downs, be giving up 4 to 7 yards of carry on the ground on early downs. The Bengals' plan right now is kind of hoping for development. Like, they're going to give Chris Jenkins a much better role. And he wasn't getting pushed back on the line of scrimmage last week. He made 1 splash play. It wasn't 5 splash plays, but even just the lack of embarrassing plays was a step forward for what the Bengals were getting from that unit. So he'll be a bigger part of the puzzle. B.J. Hill coming back should provide a boost. But overall, they just need more guys to be more physical and win more and separate more off of blocks, or else they're not going to stand a chance. Like, look at how Baltimore stormed up to the crazy big lead against Dallas a couple weeks ago. That was just because Dallas on early downs was letting Baltimore be ridiculously efficient. That's probably what this game will come down to this week.
Look, Baltimore Ravens, they love to play with a lead. If they can play with a lead, they'll just mow you down. There's no doubt about it. What can you say about the state of health when it comes to our defensive linemen? Guys like Chris Jenkins, guys like McKinley Jackson, B.J. Hill, Sheldon Rankins. Will we have them available for this game week 5?
Sounds very optimistic with B.J. Hill, who did some pre-practice work last week, who did a pregame warm-up on Sunday, who's ahead of Sheldon Rankins. I think there's a decent chance that B.J. Hill plays. A big name to keep an eye on is Myles Murphy, who's eligible to come off of IR this week. Myles Murphy's the Bengals' second-best pass rusher right now, and he didn't show it last year in limited reps as a rookie, but just his pure athleticism and speed and instincts, they're going to bank on that right away. Chris Jenkins, like I mentioned, is slated for a bigger role. They've been scaling him back just because he's playing with one hand and a club on the other hand, coming off thumb surgery, but he's about to step into a bigger role. McKinley Jackson, it's tough because they drafted McKinley Jackson with teams like the Ravens in mind. They love to have a true nose tackle. But Lou Anarumo pointed out on Monday, McKinley has only had 3 NFL padded practices before he got hurt. No preseason action, no game action. He said it would be more of a developmental process. That made me think it was less likely that they're going to plan on counting on him this week, which means I guess more B.J. Hill, Chris Jenkins, and Zack Carter against Baltimore.
One last thing before we let you go, Charlie. Look, I'm starting to see some young players on the offense starting to emerge, and capture the attention of the quarterback, Joe Burrow. I want you to just kind of give me a quick breakdown of how all three of these young players are becoming an emerging presence on the offensive side of the ball. Tight end Eric All, the rookie, starting to make a presence felt. Andre Yoshivash, to me, is just one of the most improved players entering his second season. And then Chase Brown. How will all three of these players fit into the offense as we move deeper into the regular season?
Well, the Bengals are shifting more towards, lining up under center, and that specifically unlocks some new styles of runs for Chase Brown. He feels so close to ripping off that 60-yard run, and you can just feel the quickness and the way he hits the hole and goes. And that is an element that wasn't Joe Mixon's game. That wasn't, Jeremy Hill's game. That is an element the Bengals offense hasn't had enough of in the run game. Andre Yoshivash, they made the bold move. We're going to put you in the slot this year. And I think you really saw that start to pay off and crystallize for the first time with Burrow's throw of the day right before halftime, a seam ball up the middle where Yoshivash high points a catch between the safeties and the linebackers. I bet there are only 5 to 10 slot receivers in the NFL who can make that play. Specifically because most slot receivers aren't 6'2". With the contested catchability like that and the athleticism to make it work on the back end like Yoshivash has, showing his heptathlete skills, that vision is starting to pay off. But it's still not a true 11 personnel team. He's rotating in because they want to get more tight ends, more guys like Eric All on the field. I mentioned Chase Brown. Well, the Bengals get to run different types of runs because All is legitimately winning with blocks on the move, where the Bengals just haven't had a lot of that. That wasn't Uzama's game. That wasn't Hayden Hurst's game. Get All in space, and he's making guys miss. You're drawing up routes for him near the line of scrimmage. They keep putting more on All's plate, and he keeps showing he can do a lot of things really well.
Yeah, I think I'd be remiss, too, if we didn't talk about Amarius Mims inserted into the starting lineup. And we have one of the best rushing performances just as a team with him inserted into the lineup. Any sense from the coaches how he fared in his first game on Sunday?
Excuse me. I talked to some of his teammates about it specifically. They kept stressing one play where Mims' helmet flew off and he kept blocking. That shows you everything you need to know.
There you go. He's a tough guy. He's a tough fighter. This offensive line is steadily improving, particularly in our ability to mow people down up front in the run game. I'm expecting big things from this offense as they continue to improve. I'm crossing my fingers for the defense because I know Lou Anarumo has got to be just wringing his hands trying to get this group to improve. It all starts with, you and I both know, we're getting healthy up front on that defensive line before we could see this defense really start to take flight. Charlie Goldsmith, man, you're the best, my friend. We got to have you on with us more often. I love your reporting. You do great work. Thank you for joining us here on the Bleav in Bengal podcast.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Bleav in Bengal podcast. Yours truly, Solomon Wilcots. It's now time for our Performer of the Week, brought to you by French Creek Roofing, Greater Cincinnati's choice of roofing, windows, and siding. Of course, our Performer of the Week, I think it's our running back tandem of Chase Brown and Zack Moss. Both guys combined for, 144 yards rushing as a team, a couple of rushing touchdowns in the game. Chase Brown, 2 rushing touchdowns after 15 carries and 80 yards for him. Zack Moss also had 15 carries. They divided it up equally. He had 51 yards rushing on the day. Both guys were just phenomenal in terms of the way that they kept the offense on schedule, the way that Zack Moss blocked in protection, and the way that Chase Brown ran the ball after catching it. This guy gives our offense so much more juice. The speed and quickness that he brings to the table is phenomenal. We have ourselves a running back tandem that's not only helped to reinvigorate the Bengals run game, but both guys are doing more than just running the football, whether it's in pass protection for Joe Burrow, whether it's creating yards after catching the football and moving the chains and creating new first downs. As a pair of running backs, I will take Zack Moss and Chase Brown over any other pair in the National Football League. Look for these guys to get only better as we get deeper and deeper into the season. Don't you love Zack Moss? He just doesn't seem to run backwards. Seems to always make a guy miss, always making positive momentum and gains after contact. He bounces off tacklers. The guy knows where the first down marker is, and no one can keep him from getting to the first down marker. So I absolutely love what I'm seeing from both of these guys. They are the performer of the week. And oh, by the way, you should know, this is what we call a melon hat. MELIN. Of course, melon hats are built to last 5 times longer than other hats. It's made from durable material, and it's a customized fit on the head. It is one of the best hats that you can ever wear. You want to go to melon.com, MELIN.com, to get one of the best and most durable hats on the market. All right, we're going to take a break, but when we come back, we're going to preview the Week 5 matchup that is to come. Baltimore Ravens about to come to town. I want you to go out and get an extra mouthpiece and an extra chin strap. It's about to get physical when we come back to the Bleav in Bengal podcast right here on Bally Sports Ohio. Welcome back, everyone, to the Bleav in Bengal podcast. It's now time to look ahead to the Week 5 matchup coming up against the Baltimore Ravens. Of course, this look ahead segment is brought to you by Midwest Hospice. Of course, if you're dealing with the final days of a loved one, of course, we know it can be difficult and very overwhelming. Well, let the people at Midwest Hospice help. They've been serving Greater Cincinnati for over the last 10 years. All right, we look ahead to the Baltimore Ravens coming to town. Cincinnati Bengals not only need to keep racking up wins, we need to start racking up wins inside of the AFC North division. This is going to be the first divisional game of the 2024 season. And right now, the Baltimore Ravens are red hot. They have had over 250 rushing yards in each of their last 2 games. They decimated the Dallas Cowboys defense. They decimated, once again, on Sunday night, the Buffalo Bills defense. Derrick Henry has been like a one-man wrecking ball rolling through defenses. People don't want to tackle him. And the Cincinnati Bengals, you know what? We've allowed 100 yards rushing in all 4 games so far this season. This is one of those do-or-die games for the Cincinnati Bengals defense. We've got to be able to get our defensive lineman back. Hopefully we'll have Sheldon Rankins. Hopefully we'll have B.J. Hill. And I want to pay attention to a guy by the name of Lawrence Guy. Remember, he had played with those championship teams with the New England Patriots. He's doing a great job just filling in on our defensive line. The guy just showed up, put a uniform on, didn't even go through training camp. He's coming off the couch, helping our run defense. And so, guys, we're going to have to bring an extra mouthpiece on this one because Derrick Henry is no joke. We got to tackle better, and we got to really lock down and set the edges better in terms of our run defense. So hopefully we're going to get a few guys back on our defensive line. We'll be more healthy, and hopefully we'll tackle better. More than anything, we can't let them throw the ball over our heads in the secondary. This is a Baltimore Ravens team that is so efficient, so good at running the ball with Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry that it's going to be all that we can handle stopping this offense. But I could tell you the best way to stop the Baltimore Ravens offense. You got to play with a lead. The Baltimore Ravens, they don't want to play from behind. They want to play with the lead so they can keep pounding the run game. But if we get the lead early, they'll have to chase us on the scoreboard. And what happens is they'll run it less than they will throw it. You want them throwing the ball. You don't want them running it because that's what they do very well. In fact, they have gone 37 consecutive games rushing for over 100 yards. This is a team that gets out of bed running the football. The only way you can take them out of it is force them to play from behind on the scoreboard. That's how the Kansas City Chiefs beat them in the AFC Championship game at M&T Bank Stadium. You keep them trailing on the scoreboard. Now they start wanting to become something they're not, which is primarily a passing team. They'll start to try to throw it to play keep up with Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals offense. Get the early lead, and you will control the fight against the Baltimore Ravens Week 5. Well, that's going to do it for here in this edition of the Bleav in Bengal podcast. Thank you for joining us, everyone. We want to thank Charlie Goldsmith. Isn't he great, by the way? We got to have him on the show more. We'll be back next week, everyone. Don't forget to join us.